kind of morning unlisted live streams. And so unlisted meaning that whenever I record it, there's not a live audience, but then I'll make it public later. It just helps me concentrate. I'm really contemplative in the morning. It's just my time. I get very creative, and I love teaching and talking in the morning. So anyway, if you guys keep, enjoying these, just click the like button, let me know in the comments, and I'll keep doing them. But I wanted to talk to you about something that isn't going to be relevant to everybody, but it's something that I think that it's important that I talk about. If you are what I call a high performance person, why you have an advantage in recovery from anxiety and panic and depersonalization, realization, but also why you have a little bit of a disadvantage. You have more of an advantage than a disadvantage, but you do have a disadvantage, and I'll tell you why. So first of all, who is a high performance client? Okay, so I have two types of clients that I work with, and there's a spectrum, okay? Let's say, by the way, I love all these people. In fact, some of the greatest success stories are people who are not a high performance client, and they're more on the extreme end of the spectrum I'm about to talk about. So I have a heart for people, and so just so you know, this has nothing to do with people's value or anything like that, or their ability to recover. But one end of the spectrum is people are, again, this is the extreme end of the spectrum, okay? People are completely avoidant of life, right? They are staying in their room, not going anywhere. Again, this doesn't happen too often, but again, it's the extreme end of the spectrum. They don't go anywhere. They don't do anything. Their whole life is built around the symptoms. There's no routine, no day structure, very little sense of identity, very little resilience, little to no resilience, have never really accomplished much of anything in life. And that's okay. I've been there too, right? And no confidence, and completely obsessed and consumed by the symptoms. And they are not living their life at all, completely out of touch with their body as well. Lots of fear, resistance of the symptoms. Okay, so that's one extreme end of the spectrum. Now let's go ahead and swing the pendulum to the other equal opposite end of the spectrum. That would be people are living their life and they are basically muscling their way through. Even though they're symptomatic and they're exhausted, they just force themselves to keep going, right? And, maybe they get up early and they're doing cold plunges, they're doing sauna, they're working out, they're exercising, they're still going to work, they're going all in on life. And yeah, they have symptoms and they're scary and they're frustrating, they're uncomfortable, but they're just, again, muscling their way through, all right? So those people on that opposite end of the spectrum, as far as they're just living their life and just muscling their way through, those are people that I typically call high performance clients, okay, or high performance people. Their response to the symptoms is what they do with their career typically, which is if there's a problem, I'm just going to muscle my way through, meaning I'm just going to put in long hours, I'm going to increase productivity, and I'm going to do as many healthy habits as possible, and I'm going to try to outthink this and outwork this, and it doesn't work with these symptoms. And that's why they have a disadvantage, and that's why it sometimes takes high-performance people several months or even several years before they finally wave a flag and say, you know what, like, me doing a bunch of random positive activities is not going to work. Like, whenever I get a high-performance client and I, do an onboarding session with them, I mean, on one hand, it's really exciting because they're already doing so many things that I would have had them do anyway, right? They're getting up early, they're hydrating, they're usually, I had a guy the other day that started working with me, and he's like, yeah, my diet is pretty much perfect. And I was like, well, what is it? And he told me, and I'm like, yep. Yeah, I don't have anything to say about that, but I just also signed up somebody to work with that I'm super excited to work with. And, their diet was just really, really bad, barely eating anything, candy, fast food, right? But what I'm saying is these high performance people, they're living their life. So I teach my clients exposure, right? So that's one thing that you can do to start recovering and show your nervous system that you're safe is live your life. Don't avoid life because of symptoms. Now, that's not enough. Remember, I tell my clients about this all the time. You have to get out of that one thing mentality. That is going to literally cost you so much time. There is not one thing that's going to produce long-term results for these symptoms. There are definitely singular things that help, but recovery is like peeling an onion, right? But anyway, so they'll write out their intake form and they're going to the gym. They're waking up early. They're doing cold plunges in sauna. They're eating healthy. They're doing positive affirmations. They're doing exposure. And there's always this bewildered confusion because they're like, how can that not be enough to overcome symptoms? And what I tell them is your whole life, at least since you've been a high performance person, I'm sure there was some sort of gap there, right? You've been able to just increase positive activities and it's helped you tremendously, right? Things are off. You know what? I'm just going to hit the gym harder. I'm just going to, maybe I'm not hydrating enough. I need to get my diet in check. I need to just be better with time management, right? I just need to express more gratitude. I just need to do more cold plunges, more sauna, more this, more that, whatever. Maybe I need to delegate more at work or something like that. But this is the one puzzle that you can't solve with random positive activities. But because that works for you and it's made you quite successful, you think that this will be just like everything else. And so you're like, man, like literally at this point, I'm waking up at 4:30. I'm going for a 5-mile run and I'm screaming, who's going to carry the boats and who's going to carry the logs? If you're a David Goggins fan, that was funny to you. If not, that made no sense. But, I'm hydrating, I'm eating healthy, I'm exercising, I'm hitting the gym 5 days a week now or 6 days a week now. And I'm doing deep breathing and I'm doing yoga, I'm doing meditation, I'm doing the sauna now. How is that not enough? And what I tell them is this is your disadvantage, is you're going to have a tendency to respond to the symptoms by muscling your way through life, pushing yourself, which on one hand is not bad. We don't need to throw away all these positive habits necessarily. There are some that we got to tone back a little bit, right? But we actually need to listen to your body. Muscling your way through can actually be opposite of what you need to do, generally speaking, when it comes to getting you out of these symptoms, because you're in these symptoms because your body is exhausted. There is too much fatigue, stress, a lot of times suppressed emotion. These people have a tendency to suppress their emotions more too, because remember, the response is not avoidance, the response is muscle. I'm going to muscle my way through. I'm just going to tighten up my bootstraps and just keep on chugging along. You're the little engine that could, right? And again, that's worked for you. And so there's all these neural pathways in your brain that say, okay, facing challenge, increase muscle, increase activity, positive activity. And it just doesn't work. But you just keep piling on more and more positive activities. But we have a very particular problem in this case that is not going to be solved with random positive activities, right? That's why understanding that this is primarily a body issue is really, really important. That people think, oh, it's just thoughts, it's just my mind. And then they try to beat it with their mind, right? This is primarily a body-based issue, believe it or not. And what's going on in your mind, your inability to think and concentrate and remember, all these anxious thoughts that you're getting, these irrational fears, those are biologically correct due to the state of your body. Okay? And I love what Edmund Jacobson said, who's the creator of progressive muscle relaxation. He says you can't have an anxious mind in a relaxed body. So if you will get your body in a lot better shape, and by the way, I want to clarify what I mean by that. I'm not talking about working out. Let me specify. If you will, I mean, better shape isn't the right words. If you will get your body a lot more calm and rested, you will indirectly resolve all these cognitive issues. Okay? I know it's hard. You're trying to live your life, and especially if you're a high performance people or a high performance person, your operating system is out of whack. You can't harness the full power of your resilient mind, and it's really hurting your life. It's hurting your career. It's hurting your relationships. You can't think. You can't focus. You can't remember. You can't concentrate. And so because of that, you think that because the problem appears to be up here, that the solution is up here. But the state of the mind is reflective of the state of the body. The more rested and calm you get here, the more rested and calm you'll be here. Okay? And I know it's a paradigm shift, especially in the Western world. We worship the mind. 99% of what you're going to hear is the mind, the mind, the mind, the mind, the mind. To get out of this, it's going to be just some acceptance technique or distraction technique or CBT technique or some sort of mind-based technique. And I'm not against inviting in the symptoms. I'm not against CBT. I'm certified in CBT. I'm not against mindsets, right? But if you're a high-performance person, that's usually what you're going to be drawn to is, okay, I just got to change my mindset, right? Or just do a bunch of healthy activities or positive activities. But what's happened is you pushed your body too hard, okay? For a while, your body will compensate. And, maybe you just drink some extra coffee, drink some Red Bull, and you just, find a way to compensate for the fact that you don't really have that much energy anymore. You're quite fatigued, but you generate energy through, let's say, caffeine. But eventually, that will catch up with you. You can't muscle your way through forever. And eventually you become so fatigued and your brain starts to create all these sensory triggers which are constantly putting your body into fight or flight response that you start to get exhausted. And because you're exhausted, now you start to see an increase in anxiety symptoms. And if this trajectory continues where there's an increase of fatigue and exhaustion and you just keep muscling your way through and you're not getting enough rest and relaxation, eventually your nervous system is going to become overwhelmed. I'm not saying that you feel overwhelmed. Whenever I say nervous system overwhelmed, which is what traumatic stress is, people think panic attack. They think, I feel overwhelmed. That's not what I'm talking about. You can have an overwhelmed nervous system and on the surface, things be relatively still. You can just be quite numb. But eventually, the end result of muscling your way through and the sensory triggers, firing fight or flight response, stress builds, especially if you're suppressing your emotion, the emotion starts to build up, fatigue builds up, exhaustion builds up. Eventually, you're going to reach an overwhelming state of stress and exhaustion. And from a survival perspective, if you are exhausted, it means that you're struggling to fight or flee from a lion. And what is the next defense mechanism that our body deploys? The freeze response, which is a trauma response. This is where your brain and body start to prepare to be eaten by the lion. That's where depersonalization, feeling detached from your body, is going to show up. That's where derealization, feeling detached from your surroundings, is going to show up. That's where time can start to feel distorted. That's where memory starts to be interrupted, and a whole host of other symptoms. And if this keeps climbing, which, by the way, once those trauma symptoms show up, you'll typically be in an anxious state as well. This is technically called state 3 moderate trauma. But if that keeps climbing and climbing and climbing, eventually you're going to enter what's called state 4 severe trauma. And this is where, let's say, you're a gazelle in the African savannah, and you're lying on the floor. The tiger is considering, or lion is considering if it's going to eat you. And, your body has adrenaline building up, energy building up, just in case the lion loses interest and walks away, because predators prioritize the prey that puts up a fight. But you've also got dissociative and numbing symptoms like DPDR, emotional suppression, time feeling distorted, memories thrown off, all these things. But let's say that the lion doesn't buy it. The lion doesn't believe that you're truly dead, and it decides to drag you to the lion's den where there's 10 lions waiting to eat you. It's at that point that you would go into state 4 severe trauma. There is no anxiety in that state. So if you're experiencing depersonalization, realization, and time is off and memory issues are there especially, they don't all have to be there necessarily. It depends on your nervous system and how it decides to respond. But if you've got DPDR with no anxiety, I'm not diagnosing, this is just education. It's very important for you to know that. And a lot of this is very subjective. But it could mean that this is representative of state 4 severe trauma, right? Meaning that there's been such an escalation in stress, fatigue, and exhaustion that your nervous system is not only overwhelmed, but the most overwhelmed that it could possibly be, okay? And, that's why people get told, depersonalization, realization are a symptom of anxiety. It's just not true. Depersonalization, realization don't show up until the point of traumatic stress. People see trauma as an event. That's a 20th century antiquated understanding. Trauma is not an event, of natural disaster, car accident, going off to work. Go look at the statistics of those things. There's a lot of people that go through those things that don't walk away traumatized, right? Trauma is a state. It's not an event. It's a state of overwhelming stress in the nervous system, okay? And a lot of times it's the slow buildup of stress. Not always, but it can be caused by one situation that causes you to become overwhelmed, which is called a major trauma. But for a lot of people, it's complex trauma. There's a history of stress and adversity, and it builds up, builds up, builds up. That was me for sure. But regardless, right now, your nervous system is overwhelmed, okay? And it's overwhelmed because of the state of your body. Whether you're in state 3 moderate trauma or state 4 severe trauma, and your body is in fight, flight, freeze response, okay? That's a threat response. That's your body preparing as if there is a threat. And so that leads me to recovery, okay? If you are in a threat response when there is no threat, if that's the root problem, okay, so you've been thinking that the symptoms are the problem. No. The symptoms are biologically correct for the state of your body. You're in the right state, just at the wrong time. So thus, trying to directly get rid of these symptoms is ultimately going to produce little to no results. Because the symptoms, while scary and frustrating and are impeding your life, they are not the root problem. They are biologically correct for the state of your body and nervous system. Okay? Uncomfortable doesn't equal root problem. The problem is that you've been walking around in a threat response for a very, very long time, and now it's escalated to the point of overwhelm, okay? Your body is constantly going into a threat response, preparing for a threat that never comes. You're in the right state at the wrong time, okay? If there was a lion, you'd be fully prepared for it, wouldn't you? but there is no line, and you're just trying to work and slay life. You're all right. This video is for high performance people, and I appreciate those of you who are not maybe high performance people. You might not even be listening at this point, but this is specific for those types of people. You want to slay life. You want to go all in on your career. You want to go all in on your relationships, personal development. But these symptoms are literally just like these flies that are just buzzing in your ear, okay? Well, you're not going to get out of them by doing random positive activities, because that's not in alignment with addressing the root problem, right? The root problem is that your body is going into a threat response where there is no threat. So once you understand the root problem, the solution becomes self-evident. In fact, I think it's Toyota has this thing that they do called the 5 whys. Before they manifest any solution, they first ask 5 why questions to determine the real root problem. See, the mistake that you're making as a high-performance person, the mistake that everybody's making with these symptoms is they're setting themselves up for failure at the outset because they're using deductive reasoning to determine that the symptoms are the root problem. Think about it. I'm miserable. These symptoms are ruining my life. So I deduce that the symptoms are the problem. And then you get into the boxing ring with the symptoms, and that's like trying to get into the boxing ring with sneezing and coughing if you have a bacterial infection. Well, I'm sneezing, I'm coughing, I've got headaches, I must have a headache issue, right? And I'm not going to talk much about this because, man, do people get upset when you talk about ADHD. But listen to a doctor, a licensed mental professional over me. I'm just giving you my opinion, but I think it's quite subjective, right? Do you know how many different reasons people can have attentional issues and hyperactivity? How about trauma? There's a compromised prefrontal cortex, and there's an increase of adrenaline. There's your prefrontal cortex is responsible for attentional awareness in addition to logical, critical, creative, contextual thinking. And then you've got adrenaline, right? And even that can happen just in anxiety or fight or flight response. But I think we're so quick to label something. But anyway, with that being said, if the problem is a threat response when there is no threat, then the solution is not just random positive activities, it's safety. Okay? And you hear that and you're thinking, well, I'm safe. I mean, look around. Like, there's no danger. That can't be true. Right. You are physically safe, but your brain is perceiving threat where there is no threat. Why? Primarily because of the state of your body. Right? Okay. So how do we communicate safety to the body then? Right? Which will indirectly get these symptoms to shut off. I'll tell you, right? Number one, self-regulation, okay? And there are multiple studies that have been done that show that these things are extremely effective. And these are the things that I go over with my clients, and I've been doing this for many years now, and it works, okay? It takes a lot of time, but it works. Self-regulation. You have to set up a new boundary in life that you're going to hustle from a place of rest. Remember, I'm talking to high-performance people especially. This does apply to non-high-performance people, but especially you. I want you to, sorry, the sun's come out and it's making my eyes a little bit dry this morning. I need to hydrate a little bit more. But anyway, you need to recondition your mind that rest equals success for your career, but also for your nervous system, right? And listen, I'm not saying that there are not those times to put in those 13, 14-hour days. I have to do that sometimes. You know, I understand. But generally speaking, the more rested you are and calm that you are, the more that you're going to be able to think. And then you're going to be working on the right things. And you're going to be able to bring your full attention and your full focus on it, okay? But also, most importantly, you're going to be able to take care of your body and nervous system, which is going to help get rid of these symptoms. So the more that you get 8 to 9 hours of sleep, the more that you start to calm the body and release the adrenaline from your body, which is done through fast motion, by the way, and you start to release the tension in different ways, and you start to slow down instead of running around like a chicken with your head cut off and just muscling your way through. And you take breaks when you need to. You even take naps. I know I said the word that you're not supposed to say, right? Oh, naps, right? He's being like, you want to know what? And I've got a client right now. He runs a company, or he's equal partners with somebody that runs a company. I think they have like 40 employees. And the other day, he finally just took a nap. I've been telling him for months to do this. And he literally felt like most of his symptoms go away of like anxiety and DPDR. And he literally sent me a message and he said, I think I'm just exhausted. And I was like, yeah, it's so funny how stubborn that we are. There's something called complexity bias, right? So we think that because our problems are so complex that there must be a complex solution. And so that's why your brain is trying to discount what I'm saying, because you're thinking, oh no, it can't be that simple, Jordan. You better learn about complexity bias, because the problem is complex, but the solution is this simple, right? Complex problems don't require complex solutions. In fact, usually the more complex the solution is, depending on what we're talking about, usually you'll know the more that it's probably deviating from an actual solution. You increase rest in your life, you increase relaxation, rest in the body, relaxation in the body, slowing down, having new boundaries in life. That I'm going to work from a place of rest. I'm going to slow down a little bit, focus on quality over quantity. And that extends to exercise and working out. Hate to break it to you, but going to the gym 6 days a week, 5 days a week, working out for 1 to 2 hours is probably not ideal right now. Not saying don't work out at all or whatever. Maybe do 3 days a week for 30 minutes or something. Do light to medium weight for right now. Right now, your body can't handle that. Maybe 6 months from now it can. Start working out 5 days a week, whatever, 6 days. But we got to slow things down a little bit, okay? Running. That's burning a lot of energy that you don't have. Do you really need to run 5 miles in the morning right now? You probably don't, right? And so we have to start reducing or even eliminating some of these things that you're doing that are just burning off unnecessary energy and exhausting you. It's like you're starting off the morning with like 20% battery, and then by the end of your morning routine, you're pretty much at zero, right? So anyway, we got to be careful of things that are exhausting your body, and then we need to start to prioritize sleep, relaxation, releasing your emotions, releasing adrenaline from the body. That's going to be super important, right? Facing your emotions too, that's very important. Don't suppress them. And by the way, as you increase relaxation in the body, you'll find that your emotions will start to manifest quite easily. And maybe if you're having trouble with emotion, it's because your body is constantly in fight or flight. But anyway, with that being said, that's self-regulation. The second thing is co-regulation. Now, if you want it to be me, that's fine. Doesn't have to be me. I'm really good at it, and I'd love to hear your situation. And I also love to work with high-performance clients, but it doesn't have to be me. Go out there and find somebody that it works for you. But co-regulation is whenever you work with somebody that can validate your experience. And that's a lot of what I do with my clients. It's very important for them because nobody's understood them. It's been frustrating for them. And I'm able to come in and share my own history, my own story, and be like, "Oh no, you're not going crazy. No, you're normal. Oh yeah, I used to experience this." And also we do private coaching, and I do group coaching, and you're able to hear other people that are going through the same things. That's like, oh my gosh, they're going through it too. I'm not going crazy. But then the second element of it is hope. I'm able to transfer certainty to people because I've just done this for so long. I've gotten to the point where I'm not nervous about people's recovery. Even whenever they feel hopeless and they're doing good, then they feel terrible, like they lost all their progress, and they're literally hopeless at first. Maybe they have a little bit. Maybe they watch my videos for a while and, they have just enough hope to at least execute. But it's such an up and down process, even whenever you're doing the right things. But I give people hope. And you need somebody in your life that can give you that hope and support as you are learning how to self-regulate and make these lifestyle adjustments, okay? Number 3 is exposure. You pretty much got that one down if you're a high performance person, because you probably have not. Maybe you do avoid some. Maybe you avoid a lot, by the way. I do have high performance people that do end up avoiding a lot of things. You need to face life, because that shows your brain that there's no lion. Remember, we're trying to show your body and nervous system that there's no threat. So if you expose yourself to triggers, which is basically just living life, that's going to show your brain that you're safe, okay? Also, facing your emotions is very important. Also, having an attitude of invitation towards the symptoms, not running from them, is very important too. And then lastly, the very last thing that you need to do, we've talked about self-regulation. The more you calm the body, the more that you will show your body that you're safe, right? You're directly getting your body out of fight, flight, freeze by calming the body, increasing rest, relaxation in the body, making lifestyle adjustments to make sure that you're not overexerting yourself. Number 2, co-regulation. Humans heal humans. 45% of healing is co-regulation, right? Communicating safety to your nervous system through the presence of a calming human that can create hope in you. Number 3 was exposure, facing sensory triggers, facing symptom triggers, facing your emotions. And then the last thing is neuroscience. Believe it or not, getting the right information is really, really important. So many people, they just can't understand why they're experiencing these symptoms for months or years. And I know for me, a bad marijuana experience is technically what caused me to hit that overwhelming stress point. And I didn't understand complex trauma. And because of that, I was like, maybe my friends laced the weed, or like, am I going crazy? Or like, why is this? It just created so much stress. And so I know everybody's focused on the techniques and the how-to, especially if you're a high-performance person. But getting the right information is paramount. It's going to do 3 things. Number 1, it's going to I got a meeting I got to go to, actually. I want to keep talking, but I got to go. It's going to strip away fear of the symptoms. You're going to see how you're in the right state at the wrong time. The symptoms are biologically correct, uncomfortable but not dangerous. Number 2, it's going to strip away shame. Maybe you've let in some shame that you're broken, there's something wrong with you, you're stupid, you're weak. None of those things are true. Number 3, it's going to eliminate symptom obsession. Once you understand the neuroscience of why the symptoms are there, it allows you to get off this hamster wheel of making a full-time job out of trying to get rid of the symptoms that are biologically correct for the state of your body, and you can move on from trying to directly get the symptoms to shut off to an indirect approach by doing the things that we just talked about, okay? Let's call it the core 4: self-regulation, co-regulation, exposure, and then getting the right neuroscience and renewing your mind to that, okay? So that is it. And if you would like to learn the neuroscience of what's going on in a more in-depth way, as well as learn 5 shifts that you have to make if you want to beat these symptoms, there's a link below. It's called the 5 Shifts Masterclass. I took 6 months to work on it, day and night. I poured my heart into it, and it will help you tremendously, get you on the right track. At the end, there is an application if you want to book a call with me and my team. And I will tell you that as a high-performance person, you have a major disadvantage because you're already doing a lot of great things, and we don't need to get rid of all of them. But it is a lot easier for me to help a high-performance client because I don't have to pull you off the couch. I don't have to help you build identity. I don't mind doing those things, but I don't have to help you do exposure very much. Like, think of it like a house, right? If you're a high-performance client, you've already got the plumbing built or installed, the electrical, you've got the concrete foundation, you've got a few rooms built. I just need to help you build a couple rooms, right? Whereas the people on the other side of the spectrum, where they're completely avoidant, don't have much identity, don't have much resilience, I help those people all the time. And by the way, I love helping those people. But we don't even have the plumbing in there yet. So it's going to take a lot longer. It's going to be a lot more in depth, and that's okay. But if you're a high performance client, those are my clients that do recover the fastest. And it's because they've already got a lot of prerequisites in place, okay? And so if that's you, if you're a high performance person or anybody that wants to work with me, feel free to apply. But anyway, there's a link after the 5 Shifts Masterclass. Fill that out, book a call with my team. We can't promise anything, guys, but we will take a look at your situation, do the best that we can. We try to do everything we can to help you, and if we can't, we'll direct you to resources that we hope will be able to help you, okay? But nonetheless, I hope this helped you, and if you want me to keep doing videos like this, smash the like button and comment something below, and I'll keep doing this for you guys. That is it, and I hope you have an awesome day. Got to get to my meeting.